You deserve better. I don't care if you don't have any kids, if you don't have a spouse, if you don't have one fucking friend. You don't need it. You need to live and decide to live for yourself. Guess what happens when you do that? The right people come into your life. I would rather have no friends than fake friends. I would rather be home alone than out socializing with people I don't really give two shits about. I'm an introvert in the sense of I am very picky about who I spend my time with. Your time is precious, and people either meet your energy, give you the energy because theirs is high, or they're emotional vampires and they drain you. Hello, Janna here. Thanks for tuning in today. I'm going to talk today about triggers, right? We all have our triggers, the things that when it happens, when we hear it, when we feel something, it takes us to an immediate place of reaction, a very strong feeling, right? Maybe it makes you mad, sad, angry, but you get triggered. So let's talk about triggers. First of all, we all have triggers. Everyone has triggers. And that's normal. And I also want you to know that they never go away. That's correct. But I'm going to share with you what does happen. And that happens as you go through the healing process. But let's talk about triggers, right? How are triggers formed? Where do they come from? Triggers come from painful memories. Triggers come from a painful season, a painful event, a painful memory, something that you had to endure growing up that you absolutely hated or that made you feel less than or, not good enough, not smart enough. And so anything that reminds you of that situation, anything that reminds you of that painful memory or if a person's reactions today remind you of somebody else's reactions and that person did something bad to you, right? That's how triggers are formed, right? And we all have triggers. Now, triggers are not the same thing as a pet peeve, okay? We all have our pet peeves, right? Like I cannot stand it when someone drives too close to me. It's like, hey, if I push my brakes, you're going to hit my car, right? That's a pet peeve. It's not a trigger. Okay. A trigger is, if someone gets really, really mad at me, especially if it's a guy, that's a trigger for me because of my past experience with physical abuse and other types of abuse from men. Right. That's a trigger. So I want to discuss triggers, all that they are, and what changes because like I said, triggers don't go away. And I think women especially, we kind of live with this guilt or shame about those triggers. And sometimes we don't even want to mention it, right? You don't want to mention it to the new person you're dating or maybe even to your friend group because it sounds um, like you're weak. It sounds like you have issues, things like that. And you don't want to even tell people. And the thing is when you're with the right group of people, when you're with the right partner, when you're with the right circle of friends, number one, they should know what your triggers are already. And number two, you should most certainly feel comfortable discussing them. So I'm going to share with you some little nuggets of gold that I wrote the other day. As you know, I'm a writer and I am working on another book. So if you're watching on YouTube, you see me looking at my Scrabble. And this is what I wrote. Triggers do not go away. Triggers do not go away as you heal your wounds and or shatter your limiting beliefs. The way you are affected when triggered is what changes. Triggers are either reminders or activators. Which one determines how much healing has been done or needs to be done? I really write better than I talk. but I love talking. But it's during my writing that I come up with these sayings. If you've read my book, number one bestseller, Unfuck Your Mind, then you remember my little quotes I have at the beginning of each chapter and the little takeaways at the end of each chapter. What I just read to you is an example of what a takeaway and or quote would be, right? Which they're both quotes of me. But I realized that, and you want to know how I realized that, and like, Janna, why were you writing that? Because I was going through something recently that had me very triggered, and I'm a problem solver, and I'm super analytical, and my brain's like a filing cabinet. Everything's got to fit. Everything's got to make sense. Everything has its place. And some of those come from, it's a protective mechanism that I have. And I think that a lot of that stems from different types of abuse throughout my life. So as I was going through this roller coaster of emotions, a lot of frustration, some sadness, hurt, all that, I realized I got to write, because when I write, it's cathartic. When I write, it helps me heal. And what I wrote was what I just shared with you. I'm going to read it again. Triggers do not go away as you heal your wounds and or shatter your limiting beliefs. The triggers never go away, my friends. How you react to them and how they affect you is what changes. If a trigger activates you, like you want to do something about it, you respond negatively, you overreact, you do or say something mean, you leave, da 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 da, like your reaction doesn't fit the action cut type thing. If you are activated when triggered, my friends, there is still some healing to do. There's still some shattering of limiting beliefs to do. There's still some self work to do. But if a trigger is a reminder to you and it doesn't make you do something that's an overreaction, that's when you know you've done some healing. And that's what led me to what I wrote, because like I said, I was dealing with something in my personal life that it had me a little activated. And I knew already I shouldn't have been so activated. And I was frustrated because I was like, I've done so much healing. I've shattered my limiting beliefs. I don't know if I have a limiting belief. Like, I was frustrated. I was sitting right here in the same office I'm recording in, and I was really frustrated. And I didn't even want to write. I was kind of pissed off, but I started to write. I'm like, why? And as usual, I asked the universe, show me what it is I need to learn. Help me out here. I don't know what to do. I don't understand why I'm so triggered. And, you know, maybe I overreacted a little bit in that situation, but I for some reason was really triggered. And as much as it's not another person's fault for your overreaction, it's not yours either. It becomes your fault if you just refuse to do the inner work, if you refuse to accept and acknowledge that that trigger is causing some sort of negative effect in your life. That if a trigger is causing a negative effect in your life, which they do unless you heal, if a trigger is causing relationships to implode, friendships to end, jobs to end, then my friends, you gotta do the work. You are the one to blame when you just don't want to do that inner work and do the healing, right? And the self-reflection. And so that's why I was frustrated. And it dawned on me that though I understand triggers and though I've done so much healing, I realized in that moment triggers don't ever go away. I already kind of knew that, hey, triggers don't go away, but I really realized the fact that a trigger is either a reminder, a gentle nudge of like, hey, you know why this bothers you, Janna? Or a trigger is an activator. And if a trigger is an activator, there's a little bit of healing to do, right? And I will be honest with you, when I acknowledged that simple fact, that first of all, when I realized that when a trigger is an activation, and that whole thing came to me, and I realized that made me feel so much better already. And then when I acknowledged, hey, there's still some healing I need to do here, that makes a big difference. That is a huge first step in healing, my friends. A huge first step in healing is just to simply acknowledge, that that you need to do some work right there. And when I say do some work on that, when I say do some healing, some self reflection, the inner work, it's not just acknowledging it and then like, oh, I acknowledged it. All right, I'm good. Did my part. My friends, that's the first step. And it's a big first step because it's hard to sometimes admit and acknowledge our own shit. And a lot of people can't do that. So you be very damn proud of yourself if you have acknowledged your own shit, if you have accepted your own shit, if you have decided and committed to working and fixing your own shit. Be proud of that. Be proud of yourself and give yourself a big pat on the back. It is the first step and it is a huge part of it. It's almost 50 fucking percent of it. I'll be honest with you. Because the moment of acceptance and recognizing your own stuff, your own issues, your own inner wounds that need to be healed is the initiator to the domino effect of doing the actual work, right? And people don't give that enough credit. They don't really, Janna, what's it going to do? Okay, I acknowledged it. What now? They don't understand the power in accepting and acknowledging. It isn't easy to look in that mirror, right? Let's say that you were trying to make yourself look as just, worst you could ever look. You were making yourself look as bad as possible. Like you were going out of your way to just not have anything working for you on the outside on purpose. Would you expect to look in that mirror and be like, oh, that looks good? No, because you didn't work on that. That's not what you worked on. But I'll tell you what, if you worked on cleaning yourself up, if you worked on taking care of yourself, if you worked on eating healthy, maybe getting some exercise, eating the right foods, not overeating, getting some good sleep, if you worked on all of those things, self-hygiene, if you worked on all of that stuff, you would know when you looked in the mirror, hey, I'm going to look better. I'm going to look good. It's the same thing inside. You have to do that work inside. No one else can do it for you. And it's hard to look into the mirror to face ourselves when we know, not ready to accept all that. Nope. Some of it I know is I self-inflicted and the rest of it someone else did and it sucks and I hate it. And I don't even want to think about that situation. I don't want to think about that person. I don't want to think about that memory because it pisses me off. I am not ready for that. It is not easy to look into the mirror because you tell yourself all those things that I just said, but no one else can do it for you. I can look into the mirror at you, but I'm not going to see what it is that you see because you are the one that feels it. But why do you want to feel that negativity, that toxicity? Why do you want to feel that pain? Why do you want to stay in those invisible chains? Why do you want that backpack on your back with the heavy weight that makes it impossible to just move forward to your right destination? Only you can do the work. Only you can take a real hard look in that mirror. And trust me, when I did that about 4.5, 5 years ago, it was not easy. I didn't like it. And I mean physically looked in a fucking mirror and not at my physical appearance because I'd been crying and not sleeping very much at that time. I was an emotional wreck and it was hard to look in that mirror. I was so triggered by every damn thing. I was in so much pain and sadness and heartbreak that the emotional pain took on a physical pain and it made me feel like I couldn't fucking breathe. And if it wasn't for my 3 precious babies, I honestly didn't care to wake the fuck up the next day. That's no way to live. You deserve better. I don't care if you don't have any kids, if you don't have a spouse, if you don't have one fucking friend. You don't need it. You need to live and decide to live for yourself. And guess what happens when you do that? The right people come into your life. I would rather have no friends than fake friends. I would rather be home alone than out socializing with people I don't really give 2 shits about. I'm an introvert in the sense of I am very picky about who I spend my time with. Your time is precious, and people either meet your energy give you the energy because theirs is high, or they're emotional vampires and they drain you. Unfortunately, a lot of people fall into that latter category. So, my friend, every time you feel triggered, not the pet peeve, every time you feel triggered, say, you know what? That trigger has me activated and I need to do the work in healing because it's not good for me to feel this way. I'm holding myself back. It's not fair to myself because I'm hurting relationships, friendships, business in my life. I'm hurting my opportunities. And as you heal, you'll realize that those triggers, it's like scratching a wound. You still feel that, a scratch and a scar, you still feel where that wound was, right? But it's healed, but it's a reminder. That's what it's like when you heal your triggers, my friends. All right. Love you all. Thanks for tuning in. Rate, subscribe, leave comments, share. Talk to you soon.